I was inspired to write this by Emily Steiner, who I don't know at all, but I've seen an awful lot on Twitter, and seems like a wonderful person. And um, looking her up briefly in her page on her university page, I saw that she has written a book on reading Piers Plowman, which makes me love her even more, quite apart from her brilliant Twitter presence, because that was my many, many years ago, my undergraduate dissertation at university, or one of the two, and I loved it. I still think Piers Plowman is the most sublime piece of English medieval literature, and I can still quote chunks of it, and I still teach it to my students. Some of them do research on it now. Anyway, I won't talk about that now, although I could for genuinely hours. But I was very excited to see that she is a real expert on Langland, and introduced me to the concept of a sonnet corona. So, having promised to at least begin the attempt tonight, I thought I would look up a little bit about what that involves. There are, of course, as with Sistinas, which I mentioned in the discussion, people who take it even further, and there are things called master coronas and grandmaster coronas and all sorts of things. Someone did coronas where I think the final one was also an acrostic and all sorts of clever things like that. I'm not going to begin to attempt any of those, but I will start to play around with some ideas, and I'll be interested to see if anyone else has similar ideas. There's no particular significance to my writing in red. It's not sinister or anything, it's just the ink I happen to have in my suitcase. And this particular one is Scarlet by Jamie, bought from the lovely Scriptum shop in Oxford. If you haven't been, please do go. So, I start to think of concepts. Wikipedia tells me that the idea is the sequence of sonnets has to be addressed to a person and or similar theme, so I might try and do both, and I suppose therefore the main theme I'm thinking about is medieval, well, Old and Middle English, but medieval literature in particular, in relation to Ms. Steiner, and possibly Piers Plowman in particular. So, some thoughts. Now, immediately, that would be ambitious, but could I write it as passus, as these steps? Piers Plowman, for those of you who don't know, it's written in a sequence of steps. The number of steps depends on whether it's the A, B, C, or the Charlotte Brewer Z text version. I'm very much a B man myself, but anyway, sorry, I'm getting carried away. But the idea is that you follow in the steps of Christ, and you do well, and you do better, and you do best, and then you meet Piers the Plowman, who's kind of a precursor to, and also symbol of, and becomes Christ himself in a way. And there are all sorts of medieval books, which were hagiographies of the saints, but there are also books which were in emulation of Christ, the idea being not unreasonably a little bit like the hadith in the Islamic tradition, that as well as Christ's words in the Bible, you could seek to emulate Christ's life. If there was ever one perfect person on earth, that was Christ. And therefore, insofar as you can copy his life, it makes sense. So Thomas à Kempis wrote De Imitatione Christi, and a lot of those books were designed to help you follow in the steps of Christ, as it were a verbal pilgrimage to match the physical pilgrimage to Canterbury or Jerusalem. So the divisions of Piers Plowman are passus, and I wonder if I might think of that as a guiding concept, that each sonnet steps into another. So that might be a structural device, and I suppose what that also implies is the symbolism. In other words, if I get the ideas of feet, steps, pilgrimage, washing of feet, perhaps. Very symbolic. Okay, there's an idea I can run with. Other concepts. Well, it goes without saying that because the idea was inspired by Corona virus and lockdown and having more time on our hands, and of course the 14th century and Piers Plowman in particular is heavily linked with the plague. Again, I won't go into enormous details, I'm sure you all know far more about it later, but it's very intriguing that the plague led to all sorts of social and economic effects, and fairly directly led to the Peasants' Revolt. And that in turn affected the editing and rewriting of the Piers Plowman text. It became, in the C text, a much more conservative, safe text, because it was seen as linked to people like Wat Tyler and John Ball and so on. So the idea of plague, illness, John Donne, I think, said illness was a strength, didn't he? Not a strength. But he said it was, as it were, a useful way of learning, of practicing for death, of learning patience. As Milton writes, not so very much later, they also serve who only stand and wait. Perhaps that's what we're all doing. So plague, illness, confinement. Interesting, it's the word they used to use for women in labour. Right. Nature, kind or kinder. Another key theme. Medievals were delighted in nature. You just have to look at manuscripts to see the number of birds, beasts, medieval bestiaries, and so on that the monks were obsessed with. They weren't always particularly accurate by realistic scientific definitions, but I think that makes them all the more living and joyous in a way. So I think I need to get the idea of nature as a kind of goddess, even if necessarily a goddess that's co-opted by Christian theology. So, alright, let's start trying out some first lines. Now, as I understand it, the idea is that I can't remember, the first line of the last sonnet is the same as the last line of no, I think that's it. The last line of each sonnet becomes the first line of the next one. So there's a kind of echo of the sestina in that. And then the very last line of the last sonnet has to be the same as the first line of the first sonnet. So the first line is even more important than usual. So here we are. I shall try to make an absolute hash of it. Right. And of course I keep thinking that, is it a Paul Simon song for Emily wherever I may find her? Which is all getting a bit stalky. Sorry, Emily. It's really not meant to be. I don't intend to try and track you there. Or like a troubadour sing under your window or something. Okay. Fascinating video of a man failing to think. I think for a host of reasons. If this has to be the last line of the sequence as well, it has to begin, surely. Excuse me. With consummatum est. Quod Christi, conste fortis una. Lord of Reason. Consummatum est. No, it can't be consummatum. Bloody S, can it, you idiot? If ever there were... Oh, I was going to say if ever there were a trucky, but I suppose I could play it as a reversed iron. How does it play after that? Consummatum. No, it's pretty much all tracheic, isn't it? Damn it. I can maybe save that for the end. Keep wanting to quote. In my end is my beginning, too much reading. Not enough writing, too much reading. To be confined in space, but not in time. Works as rhymic pentameter. I think works as a beginning line. It could certainly work as a last line. To be confined in space, but not in time. Simple hardship. It's no great hardship. We who live in books. Often found ourselves. The iambics come in fairly naturally. I'm not sure the ideas are particularly well. To be confined in space but not in time is no great hardship. We who live in books have often found ourselves. Is that nice? Little cutesy, unbounded books have often found ourselves. Often found ourselves unbounded when, I need to get a rhyme scheme as well, but that can come later. Well, we have a little triplet. We have some ideas and we have a triplet. We can begin now. To be confined in space, but not in time, is no great hardship. We who live in books have often found ourselves unbounded when... A few minute recording, so I'll have to leave it there. But it's the beginning of something that almost might be called creative. More to come, perhaps.